Welcome, dear viewers, to a journey through the mystic realms of Tibet and the enigmatic city of Shambhala, a place that has captivated the human imagination for centuries. Our voyage begins in the high Himalayas, where Tibet, often referred to as the roof of the world, resides, with its rich tapestry of culture and history that stretches back millennia. Imagine standing amidst the breathtaking mountain landscapes of Tibet, gazing upon the majestic Mount Everest, the world's tallest peak. Here, a unique and distinct culture thrives, deeply influenced by Tibetan Buddhism, a central aspect of Tibetan life for centuries. Tibet is situated in the southwestern part of China, nestled between India, Nepal, Bhutan, and Myanmar. The origins of Tibetan civilization are veiled in mystery, with legends suggesting the presence of the Tibetan people as far back as the 7th century BCE. Tibet evolved from a collection of tribal and nomadic societies into a more centralized state around the 7th century CE. Tibetan Buddhism, a variant of Mahayana Buddhism, courses through the veins of Tibet's history and identity. In the 7th century, King Songtsen Gampo embraced Buddhism, paving the way for its spread throughout Tibet. Monasteries like the famous Potala Palace in Lhasa became integral to Tibetan culture and politics. The Dalai Lamas, spiritual leaders of Tibetan Buddhism, are not mere titles. They represent a sacred lineage. Gedun Drupa, recognized as the first Dalai Lama in the 15th century, marked the inception of this remarkable institution. Tibet's history took a tumultuous turn in the mid-20th century when China asserted control over the region. The Chinese occupation sparked protests, human rights abuses, and a complex web of tensions between Tibetan independence activists and the Chinese government. Today, Tibet remains a deeply contested and politically sensitive region where debates over political status and autonomy persist. The 14th Dalai Lama, spiritual leader of Tibet, has lived in exile in India since 1959, while the Tibetan government in exile advocates for Tibetan rights and autonomy. Shambhala. Now, let's embark on a mystical journey to explore Shambhala, also known as Shangri-La, a legendary city that has tantalized our imagination for centuries. Shambhala holds profound spiritual significance in Tibetan Buddhism, a hidden land of enlightenment, peace, and wisdom. In Tibetan Buddhist teachings, it symbolizes inner spiritual transformation and enlightenment, rather than a tangible place. The concept of Shambhala can be traced back to ancient Tibetan texts like the Kalachakra Tantra, describing it as a realm of enlightened beings. In the Western world, James Hilton's novel Lost Horizon introduced the fictional paradise of Shangri-La, sparking global fascination. Explorers, adventurers, and seekers have embarked on quests to find the physical Shambhala, believing its discovery could bring enlightenment or hidden treasures. While no physical city has been found, scholars continue to explore the origins and cultural significance of Shambhala through historical and literary references. Shambhala's allure has inspired countless works of literature, art, and popular culture, leaving an indelible mark on human creativity. In modern times, Shambhala is associated with Shambhala International, a network of meditation centers inspired by Tibetan Buddhism. Shambhala remains a mystical concept, its location symbolic and spiritual rather than physical. In Tibetan Buddhism, it represents inner transformation, not a geographical point on a map. If we endeavor to locate Shambhala on a map, its physical whereabouts are conjectured to lie within the challenging terrain marked in yellow to the west of the Kunlun Mountains. This region is characterized by extreme climatic conditions, an abundance of valleys and mountains, and limited exploration. Within this area, numerous valleys resembling petals hold the potential to unveil a path leading to Shambhala in the future. At present, China is under the governance of a communist party, and much of the information is tightly controlled by the CCP, making it challenging to conduct exploration in the region. If Tibet were an independent nation as it was a few years ago, there might have been a higher likelihood of verifying the physical existence of Shambhala. This raises another question in our mind. Is there a possibility of freeing Tibet from China, and what measures different countries should take to make it happen? Which country hold the key to make this a reality? Let's discuss this in detail. The question of Tibet's political status and the possibility of achieving Tibetan autonomy or independence from China is a complex and contentious issue. Tibet remains under the control of the People's Republic of China, and the Chinese government considers Tibet an integral part of its territory. China's stance on Tibet is that it has been part of its territory for centuries. There are several factors that make achieving Tibetan autonomy or independence challenging. International recognition. Most countries, including major world powers, recognize Tibet as an integral part of China. China's economic and diplomatic influence plays a significant role in shaping international opinions and policies regarding Tibet. Political landscape. Tibet's political landscape is further complicated by the presence of the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, who has lived in exile in India since 1959. His efforts to promote Tibetan autonomy have faced obstacles and challenges. Economic interests. China's economic power and influence in the global arena have led many countries to prioritize economic relations with China over political or human rights concerns related to Tibet. Geopolitical realities. The geopolitical landscape is intricate, and various international actors may not want to antagonize China due to their own political, economic, and security interests. To address the issue of Tibet, different countries and organizations have taken various measures over the years, including diplomatic efforts, raising concerns about human rights violations, and supporting the Tibetan diaspora's cultural preservation. Some potential actions that countries and international organizations can take to support Tibet include diplomacy. Engage in diplomatic dialogue with the Chinese government to advocate for greater autonomy and protection of Tibetan cultural and religious rights. Human rights advocacy. Continue to highlight human rights abuses in Tibet and call for unrestricted access to the region for international observers and journalists. Cultural preservation. Support initiatives aimed at preserving Tibetan culture, language, and heritage, both within Tibet and in the Tibetan diaspora. Multilateral pressure. Raise Tibet-related concerns in international forums and seek multilateral support for peaceful resolutions and human rights protections. Dialogue with Tibetan representatives. Encourage dialogue between the Chinese government and representatives of the Tibetan diaspora, including the Dalai Lama's representatives, to explore mutually acceptable solutions. As for which country holds the key to making Tibetan autonomy or independence a reality, it's essential to recognize that the situation is highly complex. There is no single country that can unilaterally determine Tibet's fate. Any significant changes in Tibet's political status would likely require a coordinated effort involving multiple countries and international organizations. Furthermore, the approach to addressing the Tibet issue is likely to undergo transformation with time, influenced by shifting geopolitical dynamics, evolving global public sentiment, and changes in China's domestic policies. The resolution of the Tibet question remains uncertain and continues to be a topic of ongoing international deliberation and diplomatic initiatives. In a hypothetical scenario where neighboring countries like India, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Tajikistan recognize Tibet as their neighbor rather than a part of China, it could exert significant pressure on China and potentially open a path towards Tibetan autonomy. However, considering the current geopolitical climate, none of these countries are inclined to jeopardize their relationships with China. As a result, the future of this region remains uncertain, and only time will reveal whether circumstances evolve in a way that rekindles hope among the Tibetan people for the restoration of their nation. As we conclude our exploration, remember that Tibet's intricate history and the enigmatic allure of Shambhala continue to captivate hearts and minds, inviting us to delve deeper into the mystical and the profound. Stay tuned for more intriguing journeys.